The boy was 14 years old. He stood in the middle of the grand ballroom of the Westwood Hotel, wearing shoes that didn't fit and a suit jacket 3 sizes too big. 400 people in designer gowns and tailored tuxedos stared at him. He was filthy. His hair was matted. His hands were shaking. And in those trembling hands, he held a photograph. "This man," the boy said, his voice cracking, "this man is my father." He pointed to the stage, to the man standing at the podium, the man who'd just been named Businessman of the Year. Richard Carrington, real estate mogul, philanthropist, billionaire, the richest man in the city. Richard's face went white. The ballroom erupted, gasps, whispers, cameras flashing. Security moved toward the boy, but the boy held up the photograph higher, and he left me on the streets to die. The room was silent, waiting, watching. Before we go deeper into what happened in that ballroom, take a breath with me and tell me, where are you watching from tonight? City and country. I'd like to know how far this story travels. Kindly subscribe to help our channel grow and so you don't miss stories like this. Now, let's go back to where it all began.
The boy's name was Danny, and for most of his life, he'd been invisible. He was born in a neighborhood on the east side of the city, the side tourists never saw, the side where buildings crumbled and streetlights didn't work, and people stopped calling the police because they'd stopped showing up. His mother's name was Elena. She was 23 when Danny was born. She'd been a dancer once, ballet. She'd had dreams of performing, of being someone. But life had other plans. She got pregnant at 22. The father, whoever he was, disappeared before Danny was born. So Elena raised him alone, in a one-room apartment with mold on the walls and mice in the kitchen. She worked 2 jobs, cleaning offices at night, waitressing during the day. Danny barely saw her, but when he did, she was tired, so tired. "Mama, why do you work so much?" he'd ask when he was little. "Because I love you, baby. Because I want you to have more than this." But no matter how hard she worked, there was never enough. Never enough money, never enough food, never enough safety. When Danny was 7, Alana got sick. It started small, a cough, then weakness. Then she couldn't get out of bed. The doctor said it was pneumonia, said she needed rest, medication, things that cost money they didn't have. Elena tried to keep working. She had to. But one night she collapsed at the restaurant. They fired her. No income, no insurance, no options. Danny watched his mother fade, watched her struggle to breathe, watched her apologize for being sick. "I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry." "It's okay, Mama. You'll get better." But she didn't. Elena died 2 weeks before Danny's 8th birthday. After that, Danny was alone. The state tried to place him, foster care, group homes, but Danny ran, every time, because every home they put him in felt wrong, unsafe, temporary. So he lived on the streets instead. He slept in parks, under bridges, in abandoned buildings. He ate from dumpsters, begged for change, learned which alleys were safe and which weren't. And he survived. Not thrived, survived. For 6 years, Danny was invisible, just another homeless kid, another statistic. People walked past him every day, stepped over him when he slept on sidewalks, looked through him like he wasn't there. But Danny noticed things. He watched people, studied them. He saw the way rich people walked, confident, entitled, like the world belonged to them. He saw the way they treated people like him, with disgust, with pity, with nothing. And he wondered, what makes them so different? What gives them the right? Just money? Just luck? One day when Danny was 13, he found something. He was digging through a dumpster behind an office building, looking for anything salvageable, when he saw it. A leather folder. Expensive. Someone had thrown it away. Danny pulled it out, opened it. Inside, documents, legal papers, a photograph. The photograph showed a young woman, early 20s, beautiful, smiling. Danny stared at the photo for a long time because he recognized her. It was his mother, Elena, younger, before she'd gotten sick, before life had broken her. But this version of her looked different. She was wearing an elegant dress, standing in front of a nice building. And beside her in the photo stood a man, tall, handsome, confident, smiling at the camera with his arm around Elena. Danny's hands started shaking. He'd never seen this photo before, never knew his mother had been with someone who looked wealthy. He turned the photo over. On the back, handwriting. His mother's handwriting. Richard and me, June 2008, the night I thought everything would be okay. Richard. Danny flipped through the other documents in the folder. Legal contracts, property deeds, business filings, all with the same name. Richard Carrington. And at the bottom of one document in small print, in the event of pregnancy, the undersigned agrees to relinquish claims to paternity and financial support in exchange for one-time payment of $20,000. Danny read that line 5 times. His mind was spinning. His mother had been with this man, this Richard Carrington. And when she got pregnant with Danny, this man had paid her to disappear, to never contact him again, to never tell anyone he was the father. $20,000 for a life? For a child? For Danny? Danny sat in that alley for hours, just staring at the documents. His whole life he'd thought his father was some random guy who had abandoned them. But no. His father was Richard Carrington. He'd heard that name before. Everyone had. It was everywhere in the city. Carrington Properties, Carrington Foundation, Carrington Tower. The man owned half the city, was worth billions. And Danny, his son, was sleeping in alleys and eating from trash cans? The rage that filled Danny in that moment was unlike anything he'd ever felt. His mother had died poor, broken, apologizing, while his father lived in mansions and gave speeches about philanthropy. Danny wanted to scream, to break something, to hurt someone. But instead, he just sat there, holding the photograph of his mother. And he made a decision. He was going to find Richard Carrington, and he was going to make him answer for what he'd done. It took Danny 8 months to track down his father. 8 months of planning, watching, learning. He followed Richard Carrington's schedule, studied his appearances, his patterns. He learned that Richard gave speeches, attended galas, was always in the public eye. The perfect philanthropist, the perfect businessman, the perfect lie. And then Danny saw the announcement. The Westwood Hotel. Annual Business Excellence Awards. Richard Carrington was being honored. Businessman of the Year. Danny stared at the poster on the subway platform. Richard Carrington, in a tuxedo, smiling that confident smile. And Danny knew. This was his moment.
Getting into the Westwood Hotel wasn't easy. It was a black tie event, security everywhere, guest list only. But Danny had spent years surviving on the streets. He knew how to slip through cracks, how to be invisible. He stole a suit jacket from a donation bin, found pants that almost fit, shoes that were too big but would work. He cleaned himself up as best he could in a public bathroom, combed his hair, scrubbed his face. In the mirror, he almost looked normal. Almost. The night of the gala, Danny waited outside the hotel, watched the guests arrive in limousines and town cars, designer dresses, diamond jewelry, laughter, champagne. A different world. His world was 3 blocks away, where people slept on cardboard and begged for food. But tonight, he was crossing over. Danny waited until a large group arrived, business executives, talking loudly, drunk already. He slipped in behind them, walked with confidence, like he belonged. The security guard glanced at him, frowned slightly,
But the group was moving. Danny moved with them. And just like that, he was inside. The ballroom was massive. Chandeliers, gold trim, tables set with crystal and china, 400 people in designer clothes eating food that cost more than Danny had seen in months. He felt out of place immediately. Dirty. Wrong. People glanced at him, whispered, but Danny kept walking, toward the front, toward the stage, where Richard Carrington stood at the podium, giving a speech. "And that's why I believe in giving back," Richard was saying, his voice smooth, practiced. "Those of us who've been blessed with success have a responsibility to lift up those less fortunate." The crowd applauded. Danny's hands clenched into fists. "Lies. All of it. Lies. And so I humbly accept this award, liar." The word exploded from Danny's mouth before he could stop it. The entire ballroom went silent. 400 faces turned to look at him. Richard stopped mid-sentence, stared at Danny. "Excuse me," Richard said, his voice cool. Danny's heart was pounding, but he'd come too far to stop now. He pulled out the photograph, the one of Richard and his mother. "This man," Danny said, his voice shaking, "is my father." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Richard's face went pale. "And he abandoned me. He paid my mother to disappear. And when she died, he did nothing. While he lives in mansions, I sleep on the streets." The ballroom erupted. Whispers, shouts, cameras flashing. Security rushed toward Danny. But Danny held the photograph higher. "You talk about lifting people up. You couldn't even lift up your own son." 2 security guards grabbed Danny's arms. "Wait," someone yelled. A woman near the front stood up, press badge, reporter. "Is this true, Mr. Carrington? Is this boy your son?" Richard's mouth opened, closed, opened again. I don't know who this boy is. This is clearly some kind of—" "I have proof," Danny shouted, struggling against the guards. "I have the contract, the payment records, everything." Richard's eyes went hard. He said quietly to security, "Get him out of here."
They dragged Danny out of the ballroom, through the kitchen, toward a back exit. He fought, kicked, screamed. "You can't hide from this! Everyone's going to know what you did!" But the guards were stronger, bigger. They threw him out into the alley, into the rain. Danny hit the pavement hard, the photograph and documents scattered around him. "Stay away from here, kid, or we'll call the cops." They went back inside, locked the door. Danny lay there in the rain, shaking, crying. He'd failed. No one had listened. No one had cared. Richard Carrington was going to get away with it, just like he'd gotten away with it for 14 years. But someone had been watching. The reporter. The woman who'd asked the question. Her name was Angela Torres, investigative journalist for the city's largest newspaper. She'd followed Danny outside. "Hey, kid, wait!" Danny looked up, saw her standing in the rain, holding an umbrella. "Leave me alone," Danny said. "I'm not going to hurt you. I want to help." "Nobody wants to help." Angela crouched down, eye level with Danny. "I do, because I think you're telling the truth." Danny stared at her. "Why?" "Because I've been investigating Richard Carrington for 6 months, and I know he's not the saint everyone thinks he is." She held out her hand. "Let me see those documents." They went to a 24-hour diner. Angela bought Danny food, real food, a burger, fries, hot chocolate. Danny ate like he was starving, because he was. While he ate, Angela read through the documents, the photograph, the contract. Her expression grew darker with every page. "This is real," she said finally. "This is all real." "I know," Danny said between bites. "Do you understand what this means? If I publish this, it's going to destroy Richard Carrington's reputation. Good." Angela looked at him, really looked at him. "How old are you?" 14. "Where do you live?" "Nowhere." "Family?" "Dead." Angela's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry." Danny shrugged. He'd stopped expecting sympathy years ago. "Will you help me?" he asked. Angela nodded. "Yes, but you need to understand, this is going to get messy. Richard Carrington has lawyers, money,
Power. He's going to fight this. I don't care. He might try to hurt you, silence you. He already hurt me. My whole life he hurt me. Angela closed the folder, made a decision. Okay, then we're doing this. But we're doing it right, with evidence, with testimony, with everything we need to make sure he can't wriggle out of it. How long will that take? A few weeks, maybe a month. Danny's face fell. I don't have a month. I don't have anywhere to go. Angela was quiet for a moment. Then she said something Danny never expected. You can stay with me. Angela lived in a small apartment across town, 1 bedroom, modest, safe. It was the nicest place Danny had been in years. You can take the couch, Angela said. There are clean towels in the bathroom. Help yourself to food. Danny just stood there, not moving. What's wrong? Angela asked. Why are you doing this? Doing what? Helping me. You don't know me. Angela smiled sadly. Because someone should have helped you a long time ago, and because I know what it's like to be invisible. She showed him to the bathroom, left him alone to shower. Danny stood under hot water for the first time in months, watched years of dirt and grime wash away, and he cried. Not from sadness, from relief. For the first time in 6 years, he was clean, warm, safe. Someone had seen him. Over the next few weeks, Angela worked on the story. She interviewed Danny, documented everything, verified the documents. She tracked down people who'd known Alina, people who remembered her relationship with Richard, and slowly the full picture emerged. Alina and Richard had met at a charity event in 2008. She'd been performing a ballet showcase. He'd been captivated by her, pursued her, made her fall in love with him. For 6 months, they dated, secretly, because Richard was already engaged to someone else, a woman from a wealthy family, a business arrangement more than a romance. When Alina got pregnant, she'd been terrified, but hopeful. She thought Richard would leave his fiancée, choose her, choose their baby. But he didn't. He offered her money, $20,000, to go away, to never contact him again, to sign away any claim to paternity. Alina had refused at first, but Richard's lawyers wore her down. They told her she'd never win in court, that Richard had resources she couldn't fight, that if she didn't take the deal, she'd get nothing. So she signed, took the money, and disappeared. She'd tried to use the money wisely, rent, food, savings for Danny. But $20,000 doesn't last long when you're raising a child alone. By the time Danny was 5, it was gone, and Alina was working herself to death just to survive. Angela uncovered something else. Richard Carrington's wife, the woman he'd married instead of Alina, had no idea about Danny. She'd been kept in the dark for 14 years. And when Angela contacted her for comment, the wife was devastated. I thought I knew my husband, she told Angela through tears. I thought we had a good marriage, but he's been lying to me from the beginning. Angela asked, Did you know he'd been with someone else before your wedding? No. He told me I was his first real love. I'm sorry. The wife, her name was Victoria, was quiet for a long time. Then she said, I want to meet him, the boy, Danny. I want to meet my husband's son. The meeting happened at Angela's apartment. Victoria arrived in a town car, designer clothes, diamond ring, everything Alina had never had. Danny sat on the couch, defensive, angry. Victoria looked at him and gasped. You look just like him, she whispered. Like Richard when he was younger. Danny said nothing. Victoria sat down, across from him. I'm sorry, she said, for what my husband did to you, to your mother. I'm so sorry. You didn't know, Danny said stiffly. No, but I should have. I should have asked more questions. I should have paid more attention. She pulled something from her purse, an envelope. "I filed for divorce, and I'm giving you this." She handed the envelope to Danny. Inside, a check for $1 million. Danny stared at it. "I don't understand." "It's from my personal account, not Richard's. I want you to have it. For everything you've lost, everything you should have had." Danny's hands shook. "Why?" "Because you're a child, and what happened to you is unforgivable. And I can't fix it, but I can try to help." Danny started crying. Victoria moved to sit beside him, put her arm around him. "You're not invisible anymore," she said softly. "I see you." But there was more. While Angela was investigating, she discovered that Danny wasn't Richard's only secret. There were others. 2 other women, 2 other children, both paid off, both silenced. Richard Carrington had a pattern. He preyed on vulnerable women, made them fall in love, got them pregnant, then paid them to disappear, all while maintaining his public image as a family man, a philanthropist. It was calculated, systematic, cruel. And when Angela told Danny, something inside him broke. "I'm not special," Danny said quietly. "I'm just one of many." "No," Angela said firmly. "You're the one who fought back. You're the one who refused to stay silent. That makes you special."
Angela published the story 3 weeks later. Front page, full investigation, documents, testimony, photos. Billionaire's secret. Richard Carrington fathered multiple children with vulnerable women and abandoned them all. The city exploded. The story went viral. National news, international news. Richard Carrington's world collapsed overnight. His company's stock plummeted. Board members resigned. Investors pulled out. His wife filed for divorce publicly, took half his assets. The city stripped him of his awards, his honorary degrees. His foundation lost funding. And criminal investigators opened cases. Fraud, tax evasion related to the hush money payments. Everything Richard had built, his empire, his reputation, his legacy, crumbled. But something unexpected happened. Richard Carrington requested a meeting with Danny. Angela advised against it. "He's going to try to manipulate you, to threaten you." But Danny agreed anyway. "I want to look him in the eye," Danny said. They met in a conference room, lawyers present, Angela present. Richard looked different, older, defeated. He sat across from Danny, and for a long moment, neither spoke. Then Richard said, "You look like your mother." Danny's jaw clenched. "Don't talk about her." "I loved her, you know, Elena, I really did." "You had a funny way of showing it." Richard looked down at his hands. "I was a coward. I was engaged. My family had expectations. My business had just started. I couldn't—" "No, that's all excuses. The truth is, I chose my image over people, over you." Danny stared at him. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I lost everything. My company, my reputation, my wife. And the only thing I have left is the truth. The truth that you're a monster?" Richard flinched. "Yes." Silence. "I can't undo what I did," Richard continued. "I can't bring your mother back. I can't give you back your childhood. But I can try to what? Make it right? You can't." "I know. But I can try to be the father I should have been. If you'll let me." Danny laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "You think I want a father now, after 14 years? No, I don't think you want that. But maybe you deserve it anyway." Danny left that meeting angry, confused. He didn't want Richard's apologies, didn't want his guilt. But over the next few months, Richard kept trying. He showed up, consistently, not as a billionaire, as a man trying to make amends. He attended therapy sessions with Danny, listened, didn't defend himself. He set up a trust fund, not just for Danny, but for the other children he'd abandoned. He sold his company, donated most of the money to organizations helping homeless youth. He wasn't trying to buy forgiveness. He was trying to change. One day, 6 months after the story broke, Danny asked Angela, "Do you think people can change?" "Some people, if they really want to." "Why?" "Because part of me wants to hate Richard forever, but another part of me sees him trying, actually trying." "What do you want to do?" Danny thought about his mother, about what she would want. I think my mom would want me to let go of the hate, because it's only hurting me." Angela smiled. "I think you're right." Danny started meeting with Richard regularly. Not as father and son, not yet. Just as two people trying to understand each other. One afternoon, Richard asked Danny, "What was she like? Your mother?" Danny had never talked about Elena with Richard. It felt too personal, too painful. But something made him answer. She was strong. She worked all the time, 2 jobs, sometimes 3, and she was always tired, but she never complained. Richard listened, tears in his eyes. "He used to dance for me," Danny continued, "when I was little. Even though she was exhausted, she'd put on music and dance around our tiny apartment, and for a few minutes, she'd look happy. I remember watching her dance," Richard said quietly, "at the showcase. She was beautiful, magical." Danny nodded. "She was." They sat in silence for a while. Then Danny said, "She died apologizing. She kept saying sorry. Sorry she couldn't give me more. Sorry she was sick. Sorry for everything." His voice broke. "And I just wanted her to know she was enough, that she'd always been enough." Richard covered his face with his hands, sobbed. "I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. She deserved better. You deserved better." Danny wiped his own tears. "I know. Can you ever forgive me?" Danny was quiet for a long time. "I don't know. Maybe someday, but not yet." "That's fair. But," Danny added, "maybe we can start over. Not as father and son, just as 2 people who are trying to do better." Richard looked up, hope in his eyes. "I'd like that." 1 year after the gala, Angela took Danny to the cemetery, to his mother's grave. Danny hadn't been back since the funeral, 8 years ago, when he was alone and terrified and didn't know how to say goodbye. But now he had flowers and words he'd been holding inside. He knelt beside the headstone. "Hi, Mama," he said quietly. "I'm sorry it took me so long to come back." Angela stood a distance away, giving him space. "I found him, Mama. Dad, Richard, the man from the photo." Danny placed the flowers on the grave. "He's not a good person. Or maybe he is now. I don't know. But he hurt you, and I'm angry about that. I'll probably always be angry about that. But I'm not letting that anger destroy me, because you wouldn't want that. You'd want me to live, to be happy, to dance like you used to." Tears streamed down his face. "I'm okay now, Mama. I'm safe. I have people who care about me. Angela, Victoria, even Richard in his way. I wish you were here. I wish you could see me, proud of me, tell me I'm doing okay." He touched the headstone. "I miss you every day, but I'm going to be okay, I promise." He stayed there for a long time, just sitting, just being. And when he finally stood to leave, he felt lighter, not healed, but healing.
Danny moved in with Victoria, Richard's ex-wife, who'd become something like a mother figure to him. She had a big house, empty rooms, resources. "I don't have children of my own," she told Danny, "but I'd like to try, if you'll let me." Danny agreed, tentatively at first, but Victoria was patient, kind, present. She enrolled Danny in school, got him therapy, made sure he had everything he needed. And slowly, Danny started to believe he deserved it. Richard continued his redemption work. He started a foundation, the Elena Vasquez Foundation, named after Danny's mother. It provided housing, education, and support for homeless youth. Danny helped design the programs, shared his story, helped other kids. And watching Richard work, really work, not for publicity, but because he'd changed, Danny started to believe in second chances. One day, Danny asked Richard, "Why are you really doing this, the foundation, the work? Is it just guilt?" Richard thought about it. "It started as guilt, but it's become something more. It's become purpose, meaning. Because you lost everything, Because I lost what didn't matter and found what does. Danny nodded. I think I understand that.
3 years after the gala, Danny stood on a stage. Not the Westwood Hotel ballroom, but a community center, in the neighborhood where he'd grown up. He was 17 now, taller, stronger, confident. Behind him, a banner. Elena Vasquez Foundation, Youth Center Grand Opening. In the audience, Angela, Victoria, Richard, and dozens of kids from the streets. Kids like Danny had been. Danny looked out at them. 3 years ago, I was one of you. I was homeless, invisible, angry. The kids listened. Some nodded. I thought the world didn't care about me, that I didn't matter, that I'd always be nothing. But I was wrong. Not because someone saved me, but because I refused to stay invisible. I spoke up. I fought back. I told the truth. And that truth changed everything. He paused. You all have a voice. You all have a story. And the world needs to hear it. Don't stay silent. Don't give up. Don't let anyone make you feel like you're not enough. Because you are. You always have been. The audience erupted in applause. Danny looked at Richard, sitting in the front row. They made eye contact. Richard nodded, proud. And Danny felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. After the ceremony, Danny walked through the new center. Clean rooms, beds, a kitchen, a library, art supplies, computers. Everything he'd needed as a kid, everything hundreds of other kids needed now. Angela found him standing in the library. You did it, she said. We did it. No, you. You started all of this. One brave moment in a ballroom. Danny smiled. I was terrified. I know. But you did it anyway. That's what courage is. They stood together quietly. Then Danny asked, Do you think my mom would be proud? Angela didn't hesitate. I think she'd be amazed. You took the hardest thing that ever happened to you and turned it into something that helps people. That's legacy. Danny looked around the library, at the books, at the possibilities. I wish she could see this. I think she can. The day a homeless boy exposed the city's richest man wasn't just about revenge. It wasn't just about justice. It was about refusing to be invisible, about standing up and saying, I exist, I matter, and you can't ignore me anymore. Danny's story could have ended differently. He could have stayed silent, stayed invisible, died on those streets like so many others. But he didn't. He spoke up, and when he did, the whole world listened. Richard Carrington lost everything, but maybe he gained something more important. A chance to be better, to do better, a chance to be the father he should have been all along. And Danny learned that being invisible doesn't mean you don't matter. It just means people aren't looking. But when you make them look, when you force them to see you, everything changes. If you've ever felt invisible, if you've ever felt like you don't matter, if you've ever felt like the world doesn't see you, this story is for you. Because you matter. Your voice matters. Your story matters. And the world needs to hear it. Danny is 17 now. He's in school. He has a home. He has people who love him. But more importantly, he has purpose. He helps other kids find their voices, helps them believe they're worth fighting for. Because nobody should have to be invisible. Nobody should have to beg to be seen. We all deserve to be seen, to be heard, to be valued, just as we are. And that's the truth Danny learned, the truth he taught the richest man in the city, that wealth means nothing if you can't see the people right in front of you, that power means nothing if you use it to silence instead of amplify, that legacy isn't about buildings or money or awards. It's about the lives you touch, the people you help, the difference you make.